This is Chris Kell with an overview of what it means to be a peak fitness coach. If you're watching this presentation, you're working with Peak Fitness or an affiliate of Peak Fitness, and for us, these are our protocols. These are the things that have stood the test of time, and really these presentations encompass all of my knowledge to help you be the most effective coach possible, as well as to retain and entertain your clients for as long as possible. So who you are. This is very important because I think that with personal training, coaching, boot camps nowadays, personality is the most important thing. The truth is, the way you motivate your clients and the way you keep them coming back, you keep them sticking to whatever they're doing, and you help to remind them why they're there, is the most important thing that you're going to do. Certainly, we want you to be a great coach of exercise. Certainly we want you to be as knowledgeable as possible. But at the end of the day, a good personality is the most important thing. So the best advice that I could give you as a trainer is check your ego at the door. If you're having problems with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or you're having financial problems or whatever it may be, you need to be the brightest light in the room during that session. Put that stuff to the side. It's all about your client. People want to listen. People's favorite subject is to talk about themselves. So when you're training, it's all about them. And that's what I want to emphasize, is that the first and the best thing that we can do is offer excellent customer service. All right, so that's first and foremost. With all of that said, what you also are is an expert in progressing and regressing exercises. I am a big believer in understanding basic coaching. That is the foundation of all exercise. So you should be able to coach a basic push-up. You should be able to know how to make it harder and how to make it easier, and to spot when somebody is doing wrong and make some spot corrections. So that's extremely important, and that's something that we're going to cover in this course. You're also going to be a master motivator, coach, and listener. All right, I already kind of went on a tangent about that. But the truth is that this is your most important job. If you can motivate and inspire your clients, they're absolutely going to be your clients for a very long time. So that's going to be a huge thing. You're also a role model, right? Now, ideally, if you're working with us, you live this as well, all right? If you're leaving the session and going and you have a beer in one hand and a cigarette in the other, and you're going to go get chicken wings every night after you're doing your workout, or you're coaching your class, that's not necessarily the most authentic behavior when you're asking your clients to do things otherwise. So what I really want you to think about doing is leading from the front, all right? Teaching your clients with purpose, sharing your own personal experiences, and being a role model to them, because regardless of what age they are, they're going to be looking at you in that way, all right? So you're an authority figure. You've been put in that position. So I really want you to think about how can you use examples from your own life and to inspire your clients to be the best that they can be. You're also going to be a reader of templates. As you'll learn with our system, I am a big believer in templating things out. We give you flexibility to do your own thing as well, but we definitely provide you program templates and teach you what to do. So that's going to be a big part of this process also. So in terms of what your coaching duties are, what we expect on a daily basis. Number one are just what we do daily. All right, so when we're teaching a class, whether it be a small group training program, boot camp, or personal training for that matter, you're always showing up early to set up. If you're working in a commercial gym, there's not going to be an abundance of equipment, and that is a situation that's changing all the time. You could be working around multiple trainers that are training their clients as well. So whatever your situation is, set aside enough time to secure your equipment, make sure you kind of figure out the area that you're going to use, so we have minimal transition time from exercise to exercise. And if that is not the case, if you set up one exercise on one side of the room, but you don't have the equipment for the next, that's 30 seconds to a minute you've burned trying to go over there and get that. So things need to be tight, and especially when you're dealing with 5, 10, 15 people, you have to know exactly what you're doing. So definitely show up early. You should be the first one there. Now once you get there, inevitably, if your services are popular, you have new people coming in, you're going to need to teach them sort of the standard things that they need to know. And again, as we go through our course, one of the big things for us is our standard foam rolling and our warm-up routine. We teach all of our clients a standard foam rolling and warm-up routine we ask them to perform before workout in order to prepare themselves into warm-up. We want to get as much out of the session as possible, so if they can knock those things out, number one, that's injury prevention, but number two, that's one less thing that we have to worry about. So we try to outsource that to them. It'll work in varying degrees with whoever you're dealing with, but it's something that for new people that are coming in, whether it be at the beginning of a cycle or in the middle, you can teach it to them just on the spot there. From there, we also want to write the boot camp workouts up on the whiteboard. Whether we're working with a small group program or we're training a larger boot camp, it's important to be able to reinforce what you're talking about by writing down the workout that day. Okay, so if you have push-ups with a shoulder tap, and you keep reinforcing that and you keep telling the clients but they don't see it, they're inevitably going to forget during circuits. So I find that it's very important to write those things down so you could just refer to them again and again, and during the heat of the action, the client can look over and see, okay, this is what I do. And finally, most importantly, especially in order to get paid, make sure the clients are signing in. Okay, so you might be using a logbook, you might be using an online logging system, whatever it may be, but ensure that they're signing in order to make sure that we're getting, we have a record of them being there. With that said, the motivation and accountability portion relates more to what goes on during the session. So number one is that we are ensuring nothing is hurting. All right, I'm always asking my clients, does this hurt? Do you need a sub? Because it's not because I feel that they're weak or incapable, it's because I'm always coaching and assessing. Okay, the reality is that every exercise is an assessment, so keep your eyes open for that. The client is grimacing while they're performing an exercise, and even if they say, oh, it doesn't hurt, if they look like it hurts, it probably does. All right, so be prepared to sub that, and that's something that you'll learn with time. But take it from me, if it doesn't smell right or look right, it probably is not right. So make sure you are the coach. Even if the person says they can keep going, always err to the side of caution. So from there, we also want to ask the client what their goal is and what we can do to help them. We'll talk a lot about accountability tools and how we set goals and everything else, but it's what happens during the sessions. When you tell the client, push through, remember why we're here, what are you working towards? And you remind them of these things, they kind of gain this clarity that allows them to kind of push through. And I've seen clients where, they might be dragging for a week or two, but then they have this almost epiphany during one session where they find their voice, they find their power, and they're able to push through at a harder rate. So by reminding them and being there every step of the way as their coach, you're going to reinforce their commitment to you that much more. And finally, I'm always asking how the client feels that day. Well, we might have workout plans. We might have something written on the board, or we might have something templated out for that day. If the person doesn't feel good that day, maybe they've gotten into a fight with their boss or they hadn't slept that night, we need to be able to come up with a plan B. Okay, so that's making the exercises easier, scaling somehow for that particular individual, and just making sure that anytime fatigue occurs, we're at an increased risk of injury. So we really want to keep that in mind and look at what we can do to maybe alter the programming in that way. Now, in terms of best practices, this is something that we give to all of our clients during our initial orientations and during the first session. These are things that we ask all of our clients to do in order for the class to run smoothly. You're not always going to have optimal success with every client that you train, but ultimately, if you reinforce these things early, then we create structure. All right. If you don't do that, by contrast, people will walk all over you and they will lose motivation. As a coach, I don't care if you've trained for 6 weeks or 6 years. You need to be confident. You need to set down what your expectations early, and people will follow you as such. So number one, we want our clients to sign in when they enter. So that could either be at the front desk, a sign-in book, or whatever you've set forward, but that way they know that, okay, there's value in this session, this is why I'm here. Okay, so regardless of whether or not you're logging that for financial purposes, I still find there's merit either way. Number two is that I ask my clients to show up anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes early to stretch and roll. Some people will come right on time, and that's fine too. I mean, that's what they pay for. But by the same token, if we're going to go really hard, the person needs to prepare. So I'm always asking them to come early, to do that sort of thing. And as well, if they're dealing with an injury or something they need to talk to me about, that gives them the opportunity to do so. So that's definitely something that we ask them to do to perform the standard routine that we teach them. Once they stretch and roll, then we proceed to a warm-up. All right, and the key is that warm-ups start promptly at class time. So if your clients roll in right on time and they start foam rolling, no, that's not how it works. They go immediately into warm-up. Foam rolling is a luxury. It's something that we want our clients to do, and it's something that, you know, we'll get in at some point. But if they show up right on time or a little bit late, then we go straight into warm-up and they jump in. Now, if it's somebody that shows up 10 minutes late, then we have them do the standard warm-up that we teach them that you'll see. That way they're not disrupting your class and you don't have to go back. But the key is teach the clients the foam rolling routine. Make sure they know that as well as a standard warm-up. And then, you know, in a pinch, they can do those things to warm up on their own. So if the client is late, we ask them to roll and to perform their warm-up posted on the board. All right, not necessarily, if they're way late, we don't necessarily ask them to roll, but they're always performing the warm-up, and we're always going to post the standard warm-up, and we'll always teach that to our beginner bootcamp clients for about the first 2 months, so it's ingrained in their mind. So when we say do the warm-up post on the board, they know what we're talking about. The next portion is based upon kind of post-session etiquette. Number one is that we want them to wipe off their mats and put their equipment away. I've seen boot camps and fitness classes where they'll get done and everybody will just leave. You know, they have no respect for the instructor, and that's really not the way that we want to run our classes. We want everybody to come in with a sense of respect. They might be paying us for this, but by the same token, it's respect for the environment, it's respect for the gym. So we wipe off the mats, we put the equipment away, and we do everything together as a team. We work out as a team, we warm up as a team, and we clean up as a team. So that's the key, is that we're working together, not as partners, but as a team. And finally, when we're doing things like checking nutrition logs or talking to people about goals or what have you, we want them to bring these during the last session of the week. We will set aside time to do this for each session during the last session of the week, but this is the time that is designated to do that. So if the person is coming up to you during the session, you say there's time at the end to do that. Let's get back to the workout. You know, you shouldn't have to individualize for each person in this way, especially when we're dealing with a large class. So set aside, 10 to 15 minutes at the end of your last session of the week and look these things over so we can cover the accountability portion. So before, and this is really important, okay, this is something where this is liability right here. Before training begins, I cannot emphasize this enough. Number one, I kind of have it last year, but this is the most important thing. Make sure a waiver is signed. I've seen trainers who have not done that and have been sued as a result, and they're not going to necessarily be covered because they don't have any documentation of the fact that they took the time to protect themselves. So make sure the client signs their waiver before they ever get going. If the client has some red flags, refer them to a doctor and get a doctor's note before they get going. If it's somebody that's post-surgery or somebody that's coming to you with a heart condition or on certain types of medication, identify that through your paperwork and make sure a doctor signs off so you do your due diligence there. From there, we also want to make sure that the client has filled out their proper paperwork, such as goal setting forms, and they know what they're doing. They've chosen a goal, they have that goal in their mind, and therefore, again, it's just set in stone at that point. We don't have to worry so much about trying to work on the fly during the session. Everything's sort of laid out. Okay, and we'll generally do this in an initial orientation with our clients, either individually or as a group before we start. But that's important, especially maybe for those that come in during the middle of the cycle. What we also want to do is make sure that weigh-ins are done, Polaroids are taken, and again, generally we're either going to do this in an orientation before our boot camp or group session cycle begins, or we might do this we might set aside 20 minutes during the first session of that cycle in order to do so. So now, based upon that, let's talk a little bit about our boot camps. This slide is subjective to Peak Fitness in Lakeland, Florida, so this will change, if you're in Kalamazoo, Michigan, or whatever it may be. But for us, our boot camp program is going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Our times are going to be from 6:30 to 7:30 in the morning, and then we have in the afternoon 4 to 5 and 6 to 7 p.m. So those are the times that we're looking at, and our boot camps are generally going to be 60 minutes. They might go a little over at times, but that's generally what we're going to look at. In terms of referral policy, we always ask our clients to sign up with a partner because we believe that support occurs in teams. So always emphasize the fact, play up our referral policy. If you sign up with a partner, you get 50% off, and if you sign up 2 people, you get a month for free. So would you like to get your boot camp for free? I would. So mention this frequently, especially at the beginning when the person's intentions are highest, when they're most excited about it. Ask, hey, do you have a couple people that you might like to work out with? Usually, especially with women, oftentimes they're going to tell you yes. And as far as promotion goes, we also have this thing called the Friday Throwdown. Friday Throwdown is a workout that we do every Friday as a team. These are team workouts. We score them as teams or as partner workouts where we will have partners and teams go up against one another. You can bring your friends to this workout. This is the workout that we ask people to bring their friends to just come try it out. And it's something that is pretty popular because we really build upon those cornerstones of teamwork. Now, in terms of accountability, again, we're going to set aside time during the last session of the week to do what we call our Friday check-in. And generally, this is going to be anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. We will do a 30-minute conditioning workout on that day. We'll get the clients really tired, and then we'll look at this stuff. So, number one, during our Friday check-in, generally what we're going to do is we're going to weigh in our clients and do body composition. Personally, I like to do this every week because it just creates accountability. It's not necessarily true that the client is going to lose a ton of weight or a lot of body fat from week to week. In fact, that's oftentimes not the case. But what does happen is that they know they will be accountable on Friday. They know that they're going to be either photographed or weighed in and pinched. So they're going to stay on themselves, right? They're going to be doing their nutrition. They're going to be logging properly. Okay, and that creates an element of accountability that I feel like is a valuable thing. What we're also going to do are Polaroids every 2 weeks, or just pictures where we photograph them in a two-piece or something that they would like to wear after their session is over. So if the person is not necessarily comfortable wearing maybe a two-piece bikini, I'll say, okay, bring in a dress that you want to be able to fit into. Let's see how you look in that. And that way it's kind of an out-of-the-box way to still get some before and afters and see how they're doing. So that's something, again, it's a measure of accountability. And what I like to do is I will put these photos in an online Flickr album, and I'll just show the clients as they progress, how they're doing. What we're also going to do is check nutrition logs. This is a pretty old school thing, but today, with technology, we can use websites like myfitnesspal.com, which I really like a lot. There are even websites where the person can take pictures of their food and it will scan it for calories. So there's a lot of different ways to go, as well as using the old school notebook where they just write down the time of day and what they eat. But what I'm looking for, if that is the case, is number one, I want the time of day. Number two, I want the basic portion of what they eat, so a cup of rice or half a cup or whatever it may be, along with the contents of what they eat. So they say, okay, at 10 a.m. on Sunday, I had one medium bagel and I had a half a cup of cream cheese or whatever it may be. But that way, you have a basic idea of what they're doing, and that's not so much for counting calories as it is for looking at habits and seeing whether or not they're sticking to the basic plan. What we'll also do is we will have them, we'll check their habit. And what I like to do is have the client write their habit down in a notebook that they keep, or I can write it down for myself, and we'll say, okay, so have you successfully been able to cut sodas out of your diet for this week? Okay, and the person might say yes, or they might say no. Based upon that, we try to modify it, okay? And it's all about shrinking things down, rather than saying, oh, well, you did a bad job, you didn't do it. If they were not logging if they were not able to cut out all of the Cokes, you celebrate their victory. So they said, okay, well, I drank 4 Cokes rather than 6. But that's still progress. We say, okay, so next week, would you be comfortable drinking 2 Cokes rather than 4? They're like, nah, not really. Okay, what about 3? Yeah, I would be comfortable with that. So again, it's just bargaining with the person and shrinking down the change is something that they can handle. And I think that's going to be the key thing. What we'll also do, and this is not a necessary thing, but it's an optional thing, but it's something that I recommend because it is effective, are bi-weekly check-ins. So I'll send a group text to my clients during the week, just kind of checking on them, seeing how they're doing. as well as messaging them in a Facebook group. Okay, and the cool thing is we provide an off-day program for you to sign your clients up for that provides that kind of support. You know, they're given a workout that's sent to their email every day, but they're also invited to a Facebook group where they can post messages where we keep them accountable on a daily basis. I message them and I kind of perform your function. So that's going to be a key thing. Now, 1 or 2 times per quarter, which is, every several months, we might sit down with a person individually and review their goals. And again, that's going to be based upon whether or not they're in boot camp, small group training, or personal training. But I find that's useful just to kind of, again, maintain your personal relationship with that person, as well as, allowing you to kind of keep their intentions in mind. Now, in terms of off-day program, what I alluded to was our daily personal trainer program. Daily personal trainer was created with the idea of getting people to do stuff in their off days. Okay, for many years I wanted my clients to do 60 minutes of cardio, to do a foam rolling routine, and really it's overkill. The reality is, in the beginning, people are not going to spend more than probably 5 to 10 minutes in their off days doing anything. But if I said to the client, do you have 10 minutes per day to exercise? I haven't heard too many objections to that. I think everybody has that. So what Daily Personal Trainer is based upon are 10-minute circuits that the person can do at home with no equipment. So when we sign the person up for Daily Personal Trainer, they're sent a daily cardio email, which is just a high-intensity interval training circuit that they can do in their house, okay, without any equipment other than the stretch bands. For an additional fee, we also sign them up for the daily core email, which again they can do in their home with no fee, with no equipment. And those really address the 2 things that clients need most. They need the high intensity interval training in order to get their heart rate up and help them to improve their metabolic rate outside of the gym. They also need the core training to help to flatten their stomach and to build stability. But by signing them up for this program, you're basically outsourcing this function to me, and you don't really have to worry about it anymore. So I think there's some value in that. Now, in terms of what else we ask them to do, ideally, if your client's in a commercial gym, what you could also do is have them perform a spin class or just interval training in their off days. Generally, with boot camp, the primary goal is going to be fat loss. So they need to be doing some sort of energy system training on their own. And spin class definitely ticks that box, as well as intervals. Just make sure that it's fairly low impact versus like a body pump class, which is very, very weight training oriented and might contribute to their soreness after a hard day of boot camp. We'll also ask our clients to do is foam roll and do the warm-up that we teach them on their first day. So you teach them the foam rolling routine, and then again you just ask them to do it in their off days. In terms of nutrition, we generally have 3 levels with our clients. With boot camp clients, generally it's going to fall under clean eating. Really, all clean eating is looking at somebody's diet, giving them a basic diet that they can plug things into. For example, saying, okay, I want you to have for breakfast, I want you to have 1 serving of protein and 1 serving of vegetables. You can give them a shopping list that has 10 proteins listed along with a portion. So we would say, okay, 1 protein portion would be 6 to 8 ounces for a male. So I want you to have 6 to 8 ounces of, you could use chicken, fish, beans, whatever it may be, and plug that in. So I encourage the person, based upon the things that we create in those categories, just to make up their own shopping list and put their meals together. And it's pretty simple. Never at any point do we worry about counting calories. We just have them eat clean and eat from that list, and they'll be very successful. And finally, one of the more important things that we do with each cycle to create accountability are contests. All right, with that, what we try to do is get people to set basic goals. One of the problems with working with clients from the general population is they really have no idea of why they want to train. Oftentimes it's reactionary. They might come to you because they've heard they're fat or they just feel sluggish. But when you ask them, okay, what is their goal? They can't give you a specific time-sensitive goal. So when we're in a group setting, everybody is going to have something slightly different. What I found to be most effective is to set a group goal. Okay, so for example, we might have a group of people that are looking to lose body fat. So we will say, okay, what we're going to do is have a contest for who loses the most body mass, meaning body fat, relative to their size. Okay, or we could say, all right, we're going to do a judging panel that tells us about who makes the most progress in before and after pictures. And that could also be done for like the stomach, the shoulders, or whatever it may be. But immediately that gives the client a purpose, something to focus on, and something most importantly to work on with their partner. And those are what I would consider to be aesthetic goals, meaning it has to do with appearance. It's based upon the way that you look. We also have what are called performance goals. So we could say, all right, we're going to have a push-up contest. All right, the person that has the most improvements in the number of push-ups they can do in a minute from day 1 to day 60, wins this type of prize. Okay, and again, that could be related to something like a specific exercise, or we could get the group together to train for something like a Tough Mudder or an endurance event. So really, that's going to be up to you. But there's a lot of different things that they could do. In the beginning, I even like consistency contests where we say, okay, if you come to boot camp or you consistently turn in your nutrition log for 7 of the 8 weeks, you get a t-shirt that says Peak Challenge Survivor. So there are a lot of different things that you could do and a lot of ways that you could go. But again, it's just thinking a little bit out of the box in terms of how we motivate our clients. So allow me to welcome you to the family. This was a picture taken during my first year of business with some of the original members of my crew that are still in my gym. That's my mom on the far right, and somebody that's still training with me about 10 years later now. So definitely it's been an experience. All of this stuff are things that I've learned through experience, and I'm very happy to share them with you. Welcome to the family.